Good morning, Mr. Debusoye. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Mr. Debusoye. The meeting will start by 10. Èèyàn yín ni Olúbọ̀dẹ̀dẹ̀ Olúrótìmí.
Why?
Because but it involves
putting all the categories of people with disability in one school.
No.
You're not just into special.
Like when I was in the Shuashai, I want partially school for the blind. The man said I want for secondary education, and they stay with us. Who see or do that at least two.
Mainstreaming.
It's inclusive.
It's inclusive. That's mainstreaming, because when you talk about inclusive, that would be the blind.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, sirs. Good morning, man. Good morning, school colleague.
Good morning.
Unmute everybody. Unmute everybody.
Yes, everybody is smooth except the.
Unmute. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, no problem.
Zoom me. On education.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, we are starting a little bit late. We are waiting for the sign language to join in now. So once the sign language join in, we'll start immediately. Kindly help us to show your enable your caption, please.
Caption.
Mabo na jet.
Hello, good morning, all. No one is saying anything.
Good morning.
For her, I'm happy someone is responding.
Good morning.
Yeah. From Bauchi State, John Happy.
Hello. Good morning, all.
Good morning,
Hello.
ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm Suleiman Abdulaziz, popularly known as Abacha from Kaduna State, the chairman.
Good morning,
Hello.
all. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear you?
Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning, all.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Job Napoleon from Cross River State.
Good morning, all. I am Mrs. Zainab Mustafa from Plateau State.
Good morning, all. I'm Mrs. Bamiche from Lagos State.
Sorry,
Good
our
morning, all.
audience. Good morning, please. Good morning.
I'm
1 minute. 1 minute. We've not officially kicked off. This is Adetunde Ademefu speaking from the National Secretariat. The sign language interpreters are finding it hard to join in, so we'll just give them a few minutes before we kick off. Thank you.
Good morning.
Volume one.
Aye.
Hello. Good morning. Hello.
I think we can hear what is going on at the background.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Ibrahim Abubakar from Kaduna State.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Onyekachi Ololo from Anambra State.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelina Uben from Abuja. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adebusoye Monday from Ondo State.
And a volcano is about to erupt. Okay, I just. So suddenly,
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Ibrahim Abubakar from Kaduna.
Good morning, everyone. Again, this is the Adituna DMF1. Thank you for joining us today. We are very honored for the timeliness. We are very honored that you've honored our invitation to be here. For our partners from the deaf cluster, there is a sign language interpreter, Abdul Qadri. I just want to be sure that our colleagues from, so there's Abdul Qadri. We'll have him pinned now. Yes, so is he saying now? Can you say him now? Mr. Lawrence? Okay, thank you. Yes, okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for the timeliness. And we would like to start now. We apologize. We had issues with our sign-in.
Hello. Can you pin the interpreter so that the interpreter will be showed on the screen in a separate screen for the deaf man to see?
Thank you so much. That has been done. The interpreter is pinned.
what I'm saying is that just because
thank you very much. Would like to start now. Please mute yourself until when asked to speak. Thank you very much. Again, like we were saying, or I was saying, thank you so much. We'd like to dive into it. I'd like to call our national president, President Abdullahi Usman Aliyu, for his opening remarks. Mr. President, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. President, you are muted.
Hello, what up now? Are you hearing me?
Yes, very well, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much and good morning, everybody. I first of all start by appreciating the participants here. I really feel very happy because the way I see really people honored our invitation, and I pray God Almighty Allah will guide us to deliberate this issue successfully, and at the end it will be beneficiary to the disabled community of Nigeria entirely. Secondly, I also want to appreciate the scale for also having the opportunity to look at the issue of person with disability and see that it is very important for them to find in the face of person with disability and also try to see the way and manner they will have what they will fund a project that will improve the education of person with disability in Nigeria. Our head of secretariat is going to give the full deliberation on the PEA. The only thing maybe I want to highlight here is to tell us that the main, or I would say some of the main objectives of this our gathering today. One of the main objectives here is to contribute the existing work on the identifying, respecting, protecting, and fulfilling education right of persons with disability in this country. This is one of the primary objectives of this analysis, and this is the reason why we invite people so that the analysis will be presented by the JONAPID. Maybe if there is anything, addition or subtraction, or any given contribution for us to see our community move forward in terms of inclusive education in a situation whereby all our persons with disability, we participate in the school, more especially the higher institution, whereby they will also obtain their maybe degree, diploma, NC, and whatever, so that we will compete with our counterpart. When I say counterpart, I mean our counterpart is person with non-disability or so-called able people. The second objective that I want to us to understand here is we are trying to strengthen the framework for persons with disability to benefit from any changes in the policy, system, and the practice in the education of Nigeria. This framework is trying to make sure that there any change in the policy will also benefit the person with disability, so that the change will also affect the person with disability, so that they too, as I mentioned earlier, they will benefit as our counterpart, person with this non-disability, are also benefiting in terms of the education of the country, in terms of policy and other educational practice issue. We also, one of the objectives, maybe the last one I would say, is to improve the data bank of the inclusive education contents across the country, increase the public support for building awareness and understanding of disability inclusion related issue in education, including its gender dimension. Part of what inshallah our head of secretariat is going to present is you will understand that from our analysis. It will also see the way and manner we, the person with disability and other stakeholders here, will also help us to create awareness in a situation whereby the people, the government and other stakeholders will really understand the disability inclusion issue in Nigeria. Because honestly speaking, if you, I know you will get it from the presentation, you will see that many of the people, even the the people who think they are our stakeholders, they are ignorant of the this word inclusive education. You see a situation whereby maybe you can even go to maybe Minister of Education or any relevant government agency. When you are talking about the inclusive education, the only thing they will start telling you is, okay, what they mean by inclusive education is a situation whereby they have a special school for person with disability, whereby the person with disability will be keeping up in their school alone, something like segregation, and that is the way they will translate the meaning of inclusive education. So in this framework, we will now to understand, we are trying to make people to understand the term inclusive education and also join hands together with other stakeholders so that we collectively will create awareness so that the people, the government, other stakeholders, other philanthropists, all other Nigerian people will understand the contents of inclusive education. So let me not take our times because I know Head of Secretariat are going to give a full description of what happened. Thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of us, and I wish us to have a very successful deliberation. Thank you once again.
Thank you so very much, sir. And we are very honored to have such a robust background to this validation meeting, because it's very, very important that we all understand while we are here. Going straight into our next stakeholder, would like to welcome our founder and our partner, our chief partner. I don't know if we have representatives from them. That's from USAID Scale. If you have, I don't know, Secretary, could you help me check the list if there is anyone from USAID Scale yet? Okay, thank you. If otherwise, I'll welcome the Executive Director of the African Disability Forum, Mr. Shuaib. Thank you so much, sir, for honoring us. Kindly unmute yourself and give us your briefs. Thank you.
Thank you, Tunde. I'm very happy to join you, and good morning, everybody. My name is Shuaib Choplan. I'm the Executive Director of the African Disability Forum. Your national federation is our member, and we are always happy to see progress in Nigeria, and very pleased to be working with all of you and support wherever we can. This is a very good report. I've seen it, and I think these kinds of reports becomes very useful for advocacy purposes when you are working with your government at the federal or state level. I think these reports become useful to work with governments and lobby them for inclusive education and any other of the rights that you hold in Nigeria. So I think, let me stop there and wish you very good deliberations. I'll be listening in. Thank you, Tunde.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very succinct goodwill to us. And of course, we hear you very loudly. Every content from all federations should serve as tool for advocacies, because that drives every of our demands and drives every of the context of raising our voices. I would like to invite representatives from the West African Federation of the Disabled, that's WAFOD, that's the regional federation for West sub-regional federation for OPDs in West Africa. Mr. Amidou, are you on? Kindly unmute if you can hear us. Okay, so we'll come back to you. We'll invite a representative from the International Disability Alliance. I think I can see Mr. Ahmed. Kindly unmute. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Tunde. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It is always a pleasure to be with you here, and I think I look really forward to have more information about this report, because as many of you knows that inclusive education is still something that we are trying to put in place, but there is a lot of different way to do it, and having experience, having analysis on different countries will support a global view about inclusive education. And I think this is a very good opportunity to see how Nigeria analyzed the situation in order to make inclusive education a reality. And thank you so much to having us with you. I will stop here, and thank you so much again.
Great. So thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for joining us today, and warm greetings to the team at IDA. So we go straight right into why we are here today. I would love to share my screen now, and that's about presenting outcomes from the political economic analysis that we've done on inclusive education. Okay, great. Please confirm you can view my screen.
Sure, I can view.
Thank you so much. So again, we have a sign language interpreter, we have our captions. If we have any kind of constraints by any of the participants, kindly drop in the text box, then the Secretariat would address it. Thank you so much. So like mentioned, this is a report. It's a political economy analysis report on inclusive education in 5 states and the Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria. And it's a work by UNCRPD was supported by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, under the Palladium supported strengthening civic advocacy and local engagement scale project. So could you help me? Okay, great. So in terms of outlines, we'll just run through this. We'll go into the PEA background, the methodologies, the target audience, the state realities, the summaries around findings and recommendations, then reactions. We'll get reactions, or we would like to get reactions from you all, because that's why we are here, to validate this, then to harvest some of the comments and some of the observations so that we can have this finalized for dissemination. So that's the outline for today's meeting. So broadly, today's report, the PEA derived the data from duty bearers and right holders. So by duty bearers, those are persons that, of course, enables the rights of all citizens broadly. Talk about the government agencies and those that are in charge of defining how the ecosystem works, and right holders. And in this context, we as persons with disabilities, and the context that we are investigating is on inclusive education. And what we've done is to gather narratives around current models of existing public and private education initiatives, outlines that are existing in terms of barriers that directly or indirectly are affecting the achievements of inclusive education models, the misconceptions around segregated models of education, and how people appropriate inclusive designs, and of course, recommendations to policymakers, to other stakeholders in that broad light. Mr. President already enlisted the objectives, so I will not want to go into that. So we'll need to run. So broadly, the PEA broadly derived, what we did was to, of course, activate some global tools, regional tools, and national instruments around that enables the rights of persons with disabilities broadly. And these are the list of the tools that we mirrored in the report. The Samalanka Statement and Framework for Action on Special Needs Education, and that's of 1994. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that's UNCRPD, particularly the one that speaks to education rights of persons with disabilities is on Article 24. Then the global agenda, which is the Sustainable Development Goal, with specifics to Goal 4. Then the new instrument that is regional, that's the African Protocol on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Then our own, which is the in-country domesticated Nigerian Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act. So these are the tools broadly and the instruments that are being mirrored in this PEA. And that will lead us to three pillars of this PEA. So for us as UNCRPD on this project, we are targeting three pillars. Number one, the pillars around what are the existing, so to what extent are enablers activating inclusive education plans, and what are the designs in itself? So broadly, the knowledge around the education policies and its plan, like Mr. President mentioned earlier, we have stakeholders within the education context. Do they understand these tools? Do they understand the policies that enables our rights as persons with disabilities? Are there plans? Are there policies? Are the policies responsive to our needs? Because if policies are not responsive to our needs, then it becomes a problem. So actually have responsive plans, then again, it equates to having very, very non-responsive budgeting provisions on issues around education rights for persons with disabilities. So that's pillar one. Pillar two for us is about accessibility needs, modifications, and adjustments. So accessibility around policies, around plans, around budget, everything, modifications and adjustments broadly, the structures, everything that has to do with the ecosystem that enables our education rights. How accessible are the ecosystem broadly to what extent are we able to enjoy our rights as citizens of the nation? So that's pillar 2. Pillar 3, like we all know, without funding broadly, some of these things, you can have the best plans in the world. Kindly mute yourself. Thank you very much. Secretariat, please assist. Thank you. So the pillar 3 surrounds, so the budgetary provisions. You can have beautiful plans, but if they're not appropriately funded or sufficiently funded, they could just be on the paper without any kind of enablement broadly. So now having gotten these pillars, we are bouncing these pillars in terms of what we are investigating from this PEA against the general principles of the UNCRPD. And by the general principles, we speak to Article 3. We talk about respect for inherent dignity. So in that sense, just simple times, how people, as persons with disabilities, how we make our choices. Do people make these choices for us, or we make our choices ourselves? And I'm not just talking as persons with disabilities who are adults. So we begin to talk about the intersection between disability, gender, and choices. Yeah, disability, age range, and choices. Diversity within us and the choices we make. So these are things that we need to be very particular about. And are some of the things, is one of the things that this. So non-discrimination is another thing. On the premise of what are we being discriminated against, the exclusions that we experience, what are the signals? What are the elements? Are they intended? Are they not intended? Do people even understand them? So broadly, number 3, you see, we talk about full and effective participation and inclusion in the society. So as persons with disabilities, do we have the same rights? So when you have the education rights, when you have education policies or any kind of policies at all, do we enjoy it at the same level? So this is some of the things that this report is mirroring. We are bouncing these principles against the pillars that we earlier mentioned. Respect for differences and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of humanity. So broadly, are we respected as human beings? So are there biases or prejudices that, of course, are reinforced by systems, by structures, by any form of policies? So these things are things that we need to investigate, and this report is very deliberate about doing that. Equality of opportunities, accessibility, like we've mentioned, equality between men and women. So again, even when we as a community of persons with disabilities enable any kind of context, or we are part of the decision making, are we sensitive to the gender dimensions? These are things that we need to be very deliberate about. And of course, as children, so it's not just men and women, the youth perspective, the children perspective, are things that needs to come to bear. So we have bounced these general principles against the pillars of investigation. Now you see how this plan out eventually. So in terms of methodology, yes, we have the quantitative and the qualitative. And for the quantitative, of course, we have the mid-statistical package that has analyzed issues around data, the figures, and all that. And that's done on one hand. In terms of the qualitative, yeah, so we got a lot of responses, which you will definitely see. And some of these responses are very familiar. So what we did is just categorize them according to themes. So we did familiarization, and we did coding, and of course we analyzed according to the themes. So this is the context of the methodology. In terms of scope, like we mentioned, so of course this is a pilot phase. We are mirroring and we're piloting this in Kaduna State, Anambra State, Ondo State, Cross River State, Bauchi State, and the Federal Capital Territory. And broadly, like we mentioned earlier, areas of investigation, teaching and curriculum, the policies and plan, the funding, accessibility, availabilities of all these things. So, and across the disability clusters are things that we've bounced all these elements against. And we'll begin to see how these things play out eventually when we begin to dip into the summaries of the findings. So yeah, as of course, as UNCRPD, these are our core members, and by design of this project, we have the 5 core cluster associations, that's the federations, which of course, Spinal Cord Injuries Association of Nigeria, Nigeria Association of the Blind, IDEA, persons affected by leprosy, National Association of Persons with Physical Disabilities, National Association of the Deaf. So these are the 5 core clusters that, of course, are technically by design of this project a part of the the project. But again, as the federation, we bounce some of our all our investigations across the rest of our members. And of course, we're talking about people with intellectual, mental, and psychosocial disabilities, Albinism Association of Nigeria, parents of children and youth with disabilities, and of course, young persons with disabilities themselves, who are the core beneficiaries of this project. So in terms of respondents distribution, generally, in terms of age range, we see that majority of our respondents are between the ages of 18 and 25, and they are learners with disabilities. Some are between the ages of 25 to 40 and 40 to 60 respectively. And for those that are above 60, of course, we are targeting the ministries and the agencies. We have some persons who administrates over education rights of all citizens in these ministries, and they serve to respond to some of the to the queries that this PEA is putting forward. So in terms of representation, we find out that in the end of this, the whole exercise, 18%, a little bit above 18%, are persons from physical cluster, 15.8 persons from the blind cluster, 1%, and we'll see the reason why eventually, 1% are part of the persons affected by leprosy and IDEA, 5.3 albinism, scan, 12%, deaf and deaf-blinded, again, 1%, psychosocial 1.1, mental 1. And of course, the reasons are clear. These are emerging clusters. A majority of these members of ours, the needs are likely unknown. The dimensions are likely unknown. And of course, they are even more affected when we talk about most disadvantaged groups within the movement. And so these are things that, these are the representation according to distribution. The whole of the exercise, we had 136 respondents. And amongst them, we have over 70. That's 95 amongst the 136 are persons with disabilities. And the rest of the percentage are persons without disabilities, but they are key stakeholders as well. So these are some of the realities in terms of distributions, respondent distributions across the state. In Kaduna State, which of course represent the dimensions from the Northwest zone, we have 30 respondents. In Cross River State, we have 20 respondents. In Ondo State, 20 respondents. In Bauchi State, 16 respondents. At Federal Capital Territory, 31 respondents. And of course, Anambra State, 20 respondents. And we can see clearly that by respondents, we have the gender representation as well. Majority are male, for obvious reason, being, of course, Nigeria is highly patriarchal in terms of decision-making and access to opportunities, so broadly. We employed as a tool the key format interview questionnaire as a tool, because that was one thing that we needed. We needed to get robust contributions. We needed to be very deliberate about our target audience. We needed to get all that needs to be gotten so that we can advance appropriately. So yeah, this is some of the respondent representative, the agencies, federal and state ministries of education, finance and planning, learners with disabilities from various learning institutions, National University Commission, religious and traditional rulers, parents of persons with disabilities, state lead, head of our clusters, that's a president of his clusters, and of course, persons with disabilities broadly, to just mirror how the education rights are being protected and fulfilled broadly as a citizen of this country. So in terms of the realities in the state, so in the full report, you find a lot more information. We just summarize the realities so that we are aware why some of the manifestation that we have are enabled or maybe again addressed. In Kaduna State, there's a disability law. There is a commission, there's a disability commission by design. There is no effective inclusive education plan. There are no specific budgetary provision on inclusive education, and that speaks to the rights of course, having a conducive environment for both learners with disabilities and without disabilities, learning together, enjoying rights, education rights together. In terms of modification and adjustments, there are no specific provisions for that, even whilst investigating some of these components and bouncing off some of these inquiries with the private sector. A lot has not been done, because primarily even known, which you would definitely see, because broadly for us, we now very well understand that you cannot respect what you are not able to identify. You cannot protect what you are not able to respect, and you cannot fulfill what you are not able to, of course, protect. It's as simple as ABC. So as we will see eventually that some of the manifestations we are having regarding the education rights of persons with disabilities are stemming from a lot of other factors that we undermine. So, and this is the reality across the states. In Cross River State, there's a domesticated disability law, no operational disability commission, no inclusive education plan, no specific budgetary provision on inclusive education, or even education rights of persons with disabilities broadly, and modifications are not taken very seriously. In Bauchi State as well, no inclusive, no domestication of disability law, no disability commission that is operational, no inclusive education plan, no specific budgetary provision. Although across all the states, there are goodwill from the government in terms of, okay, just to maybe certify or satisfy the context of being politically correct. So there are goodwills to support persons with disabilities and their education rights. In Ondo State, there's a domesticated disability law. There is a disability commission. There is no operational inclusive education plan, no specific budgetary provision, and of course, for education rights of persons with disabilities in the state, and the modification and adjustments are not taken very seriously. In the FCT, of course, which is where it's expected that everything is perfected. Yes, we have the discrimination against persons with disability law. Yes, we have the Federation, that's the National Disability Commission. No effective education plan as at the time of this investigation. The budgetary line for education rights are not very responsive to the needs, to the exact needs of inclusive education design. And the modifications, yes, they are in place, but they are not adequate. So in Anambra State, there's a domesticated disability law. There is a disability commission, no inclusive education plan. The budgetary provision in the state for education rights of persons with disabilities are not very robust. They are not appropriate. They are not appropriated. And of course, it doesn't serve to address the rights of persons with disabilities in the state. So these are the high points of our findings. Broadly, like we said, we are bouncing this against the principles of the UNCRPD, which is on Article 3. So respect for inherent dignity and all that. So what we found out is that there is huge gap in knowledge amongst representatives of relevant duty bearers, and that's a source of worry for us as a federation. And I think Mr. President hinted on that earlier. you can't address what you don't understand. It's as simple as that. So going across the states and of course engaging with the duty bearers that are expected or that administrates over education rights of persons with disabilities, you see that there's huge gap around the instruments, the tools that enables this education rights, like we mentioned earlier, and that's a source of worry. Then again, applications, as we've seen, if you remember, respecting our inherent dignity, the ability for us to make our own choices. Now we found out that applications by learners with disabilities, especially at tertiary level, are broadly decided by the system of the institution. And we're having an example here. For instance, it was recorded by the National Association of the Blind that blind students are mostly conditioned away from any courses deeply rooted in arithmetics, and that's an abuse of right. That's an abuse of right, and that's one indicator that we're saying broadly. And it's not just for learners with disabilities from the blind cluster. Broadly, we've heard of so many stories of where, especially from a particular kind, learners with some particular kinds of impairment will get to our institutions or some schools and they'll be rejected on the premise of just seeing them. So you see, irrespective of the academic records before then, that doesn't matter anymore. Once the institution feels that, and it's all at any level, once the institution feels that they do not have the capacity, or it could even stem from biases or prejudices that, okay, we cannot accommodate you within the school system. And that's one thing that we see that it's an absolute deviation from the principles of the disability law that we have in country and some of the global instruments that the country is signed on to. So now, by definition, that's number 3, as some of the things we've seen. The segregated primary and secondary education as defined by existing special needs education models for children with disabilities strongly influences their choices and most times restricts their options as they grow towards tertiary level. So what do we mean here? So by definition, most education institutions, especially primary level, secondary level, by design, we mostly have special needs education models across these focal states. And that's what is even being mirrored across the nation. And by design, as learners with disabilities migrate from primary levels to secondary levels, of course, in itself, manifests when they begin to turn higher into tertiary institutions. Eventually, they're saying that they are being segregated instead of being part of a society. Please mute secretariat. Thank you. Of a society that enables an inclusive. So again, see here. Secretariat, could you please help? Kindly mute yourself. Thank you. Or secretariat, stop mute. That parents and guardians of learners with disabilities have very strong information. And these choices are also very restrictive in most cases, especially in the of the. So you see, the economic status of parents have very strong, and that's one thing we've not here. Very parents were with as respondents was highlighted this fact. The parents which are by the religious elements or traditional elements or cultural elements, of course, determines the kind of choices. If that's even when they enable their education right, it's very segregative in nature, it's very restrictive in nature. And the children with disabilities are limited within a context, not a context that enables their rights as citizens, that respects their rights as citizens, no. But it's within a context that demands for them on what they need to drive towards. And that's one problem we see around this that is very disturbing. Again, we bounce this against equal opportunities. Okay, let me go back. Yeah, so we found out that in terms of full participation, there is an expectation broadly amongst all respondents that UNCRPD and the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities to consciously train educators on attitudinal change towards admission of learners with disabilities into regular learning environments. And this is something that we need to be very deliberate about. So most respondents mentioned that and emphasized very strongly that there is need for training. So in times of you participating in the process, you must understand it broadly, and especially amongst particular form of impairment. So autism, Down syndrome, deaf blindness, leprosy, mental health, and of course, psychosocial. Broadly, majority of the education enablers do not understand these dimensions, and it becomes very big challenge for them to even design programs or policies that advances the rights. And it's one thing that, of course, all respondents, majority of the respondents attributed to that UNCRPD and the Commission must be ready to train education administrators on attitudinal change and things skills that they need to advance these rights. Broadly, again, as number 2 point, there's hesitation from persons with disabilities and their parents, especially given the fact that they've all experienced, sometimes in one time or the other, they've all experienced some form of rejection, and this has been reoccurring majorly, except for some parents who are economically very viable, that of course advances the rights in using all means. You find that majority of the parents are very skeptical about re-engaging with an education system where they've been rejected severally. And that's one key thing that we're saying it serves as a major finding that we're seeing here. Like we've mentioned earlier, there's little or no knowledge regarding the horizontal diversities within the clusters. So you see that, and it's very difficult for you to even define the kind of assistive devices that is needed. If you do not know the dimension around or the needs of persons with deaf blindness, it becomes a problem for you to even design tools that will enable such rights. It's really important for us to know. And of course, this is something that we've mirrored across all the underrepresented groups within the movement, that majority of the education enablers do not even understand these diversities. Yes, so there's an emerging concept of disability, particularly invisible impairment like mental and psychosocial disabilities that are broadly, they don't even understand it. So, and this is one key thing it's another source of challenge, like we said. So not for us to begin to repeat what has been said. Equality of opportunities. And one of the findings here, you see that there is, we have a lot of political actions from state governments, and that seems to have direct negative consequences that is on the current actions to enable education rights for persons with disabilities. A majority of the state governments broadly understand the special needs education model. And when you begin to talk of inclusive education, they misconceptualize it and begin to replace what the models and principles of inclusive education with the models of special needs education. And this is a sort of problem broadly, and they serve not to give the kind of opportunities that is being demanded broadly. And that's what we say in terms of the facilities. That's what has been seen in terms of what needs to be done. And broadly, in time, even within amongst us as persons with disabilities, we found out that persons with physical impairment, baby crutches users, those affected by polio, seems to have, and this is something that is very, very revealing from the findings, seems to have more opportunities in terms of education rights, because the institutions tend to view them as not having needs, maybe higher needs for accessibility needs or barriers. They are not, it seems that they are not being faced with more barriers. When you begin to marry, the barriers that are being faced with maybe a wheelchair user or someone with psychosocial needs and all that. So you see, there seems to be that definition amongst a lot of these education enablers that disability means a wheelchair user, disability means a blind person, disability means a deaf person, and nothing more, nothing less. And they mirror their designs and programs against these three impairment realities, and undermining the fact that there are different asset needs across the disability clusters. And that's one thing that we see broadly. Again, in terms of private sector, we got responses from some private sectors, and it was attested that whilst most private sectors tend to align with their corporate social responsibility to support persons with disabilities, their education rights, they use a one-size-fits-all approach if they are to procure anything, of course, to serve a community where they are being instituted. They do it using a one-size-fits-all, meaning they think all persons with disabilities are wheelchair users, so they procure wheelchairs, or all persons with disabilities tend to be persons from the blind clusters, so they procure assistive devices with brailles and all that. So they are not very deliberate in consulting with OPDs themselves or persons with disabilities for themselves, so that they can appropriate their actions within the society where they are instituted. And that's one thing that we've seen broadly. Accessibility, again, like we said, so that we don't keep repeating, curriculums not very responsive to the disability needs across the diversities. And I think that's one punch word that we need to have very strongly. The pattern and practice of removing barriers. So even when you engage, and we have a lot of OPDs, of course, JONAPID, a lot of organizations for persons with disabilities across the states, we do a lot of engagement, advocacies to these stakeholders for them to enable the rights, education rights. However, by the time they are ready to maybe make some form of adjustments or modifications, then the kinds of modification and adjustments that they make, it doesn't carry the universal design approach. So you see that our model, then you see that unintendedly, they still build barriers against other persons with other forms of impairment. And this is one thing that we see very, very clearly. Again, interventions by Nigerian orientation agencies and other media outlets are not very responsive to disseminating or creating awareness around inclusive education models. And it's not something that we don't think, I think if I have not seen this finding, if I have not seen this item, I think we've not done enough work, because if education enablers, and we are getting such high percentage from education enablers not to understand the education rights of persons with disabilities, then we should be expecting that agencies that enables awareness or sensitization at large scales to probably not even understand it as well. So, and that's one thing that we see here, that so when they begin to show out information, they are not responsive to the needs of persons with disabilities across the clusters. And of course, on issues around education rights, if a media outlet that uses maybe a radio that is largely listened to in the rural areas, does not understand the access needs or terminologies that needs to be enabled or amplified, then it becomes a problem. You are unintentionally, even if you are talking about the rights of persons with disabilities, if you do not understand terminologies, if you don't understand the dynamics, if you don't understand the diversity, then unintentionally you are not passing the right information across to the end user. And that's one key thing that we're seeing from this research as well. So equality between men, and of course, all the female respondents agree that inclusive education programs will strive better where laws and policies and data and evidences, leadership, management support, respect the inclusion of girls with disabilities, young women with disabilities, women with disabilities, because it is by so doing that we can have a plan that, of course, adequately and appropriately enables their rights and enables any kind of right from the gender perspective. And that's one key thing that we've seen here. Yes, children. So broadly, by traditional rights and cultural designs, we think we make decisions for our children. But then, according to the instruments that enables our rights, we should do the best that we can to enable their rights. But as mentioned earlier, majority of the parents that we engage with affirmed that they make the decisions for their children, and they are not naturally aligned to enabling any kind of conversation around the rights of the children with disabilities. But that's against the instruments that the global community, the regional community, and the national community of persons with disabilities agree with. And that's one key thing that we've seen here. So I'd like to run now. So broadly, in terms of recommendation, some of these recommendations are already existing. What we did was to mirror our recommendations against the elements of inclusion, which has to do with accessibility needs, affordability, acceptability, adaptability. How accessible are these things that we've been saying? The education right, when you want to contextualize it for persons with disabilities, how available it is for a person, a young child with disability in the remotest of the remote area, in maybe conflict-driven areas. Are we very deliberate about the closeness to an inclusive education environment to such a child, for him or her to be able to enjoy his or her rights at equal level with others? Affordability as well. So it's very funny how with one hand we find some of our duty bearers, especially within the private sector, beginning to buy into the inclusion ideology or tradition. However, they raise the bar, again, unattendedly, maybe in quotes, with their pricing. So when you make when you make these models that you deem to be accessible or inclusive, when you make them available, are we able to afford it? That's another barrier, because if you raise the bar in terms of affordability, then it becomes a problem. We can't assess it as well. So it's just there, but we can't assess it. So these are things, elements that within which we mirrored our recommendations, and we would see it in terms of review of existing education laws and policies. The parent effect, because it's really important that they are part of this conversation. Most of the time, we design policies, and if I say we, majority of the stakeholders in countries, especially when it has to do with education, children's rights, we design policies outside these children. So they need to understand it. They need to be part of it as well. The parents as well needs to be part of it because they are their primary support system. Again, collaboration policies, evaluating policies is of course really important. So when you make a policy and you develop a plan and you are funding the plan, it's very important that of course we have a process that evaluates these policies. Collaboration, it's very, very important. If you don't have persons with disabilities in the middle, when you talk about Article 4.3 that speaks to participation and consultation with persons with disabilities in the design and in the circle, the process, the circle of any kind of context at all. When you talk about human rights, it's really important that we are appropriately represented. And of course, our voices are not being politicized. Our voices is not being economized. Our voices is not being traditionalized in any kind of context. And it's not serving as a tool to win some form of relevance or some form of, but genuinely, we are consulted so that our voices and our perspectives are vested and mainstreamed so that we can jointly have an inclusive and a universal design that we can all enjoy as human beings. Yeah, so broadly, the same way we have from the gender movement, when we talk about affirmative action, we recommended as well that we should have a de facto equality and specific measures. Of course, if, for instance, JAM, and I know they are trying their best in terms of providing brailles for learners who are blind and all that, they are beginning to mainstream elements of inclusion. However, I think we should take it a notch higher. If there is a provision for affirmative action, the 535%, I think we should begin to demand for this as well within the education sector. And this is what we are saying clearly and we're recommending broadly. Exchange programs on Salamanca, the very good thing about Salamanca is that we found that the majority of persons think that Salamanca is premised on special needs education. No. The characteristics of Salamanca is totally on inclusive education. But because it defines in some form special needs and it ends with special needs, people run with the special needs education model, and undermining the provision that is within the Salamanca framework. And this is what we are recommending, that of course, we could begin to have exchange programs on Salamanca, Article 24, and Article 6 of the African Disability Protocol, because these things are things that can now begin to crossbreed some of these ideas and see some of the good practices in the countries that are emerging towards the fulfilling of education rights for persons with disabilities. And again, remodeling existing special needs education centers, of course, that would come with some form of fundings broadly. But if that could serve as starting point, it's something that we're recommending as well. So grants, we found out as well that there are private institutions that are involved in some form of remodeling of their existing structures and curriculum, especially in Abuja and some of the focal states. If the government can be deliberate in providing grants to these private institutions, education institutions, so that they can, and the grant will particularly be focused on making their existing systems inclusive enough to enable the rights of learners with disabilities. That's something that we've recommended as well. Corporate social responsibilities, like we mentioned, some of the CSR that we currently have aligns with the one-size-fits-all approach, would encourage that we need to begin to engage more with the private sector so that they are aware and they are part of this conversation. And when they begin to enable the education rights of persons with disabilities, they are doing it according to what is needed, and they are respecting the environmental, social, and governance context. That is some of the things that is being broadly amplified globally. And of course, the gender dimension and social inclusion lens as well. Thank you very much. On this note, we would like to invite reflections. So from participants, I know, and thank you for listening. This has been very impressive. Having a listening audience is something that is very impressive. I would like to hear and harvest your views, your reflections, your questions, and of course, responses at this point. I'll stop here for now. Let me see. Okay, we have 2 hands raised. Okay. And please, Secretariat, help me if there are questions in the chat box, kindly notify me so that we could mirror such questions as well. So we have 2 hands raised. Madam Joy, could you please unmute? And
all right, good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this great learning and opportunity. First off, I'd want to commend Jonah P. For the work done, the administrative, the executive, for this great insight and information, because I mean, we might have been at the end of assuming things. So having in-depth insight towards the research is very much appreciated. Okay, so maybe first off, I would say this a reflection. The misconception, lots of the governmental body, private firms, and individual at large do have about persons with physical disability, maybe with that have to do with clutches, polio, having little opportunity towards things. I think the word there is that these people strive. I'm saying that from a point of experience, because that notion on the government always caused them to actually limit provisions or even omit vital provisions. Take for instance, a person on crutches or a polio survivor is having lectures on a story building, 4 stories, 3 stories. Those are considerations that are not also put to bear. And most times, because yes, these people can strive to attend such lectures, outlookers might feel like, oh yeah, they can cope. Meanwhile, I mean, those are key serious challenges, or even having to shuttle lecture halls, going from one campus to the other, means of even conveying from vehicles. I mean, those are also challenges, this person said. Now, away from that conversation, I want to raise a concern. I have some concerns to raise. First off, I'm from Akwa Ibom State. And in Akwa Ibom State, during the past administration, the 8 years of the administration, we've had concern where we've raised the issue of disability law, and it passed first, second, third reading. During the first tenure, got to the second tenure, the same thing. And now the administration is off. In other words, we have to all start it all over again. So my concern exactly is there any way JONAP at large can come to...
I don't mute him.
Hello, can we hear me?
Sorry, apologies. Kindly continue. Thank you.
Okay, so is there any way JONAP at large could come to... Is there any way JONAP at large could come to, I mean, there's the law is available in the FCT and some states have domesticated it, but then other states are not domesticated. Maybe it's also a question to the legal practitioners. What other means do we go towards having states domesticate this law, either adopting it to fit into the caveats of the states and making it work so that people benefit? That is on one angle. What can JONAP do as a collective to see
any
this
question
happening?
on JONAP, I will refer them to you, sir. So be ready.
So that's on one part. Then on the second part of it, and we know that we've had the country at large ratifying the CRPD and the optional protocol as well. And in making provision, in the provisions of these CRPD, there are so many that are pointers towards inclusive education. So what extent is this ratification? Is this just, oh, let's sign it and go? Does it have any binding rule on the government? If it does, how have we engaged, or how do we intend to engage now as a collective, not just individual organizations or JONAP alone, as collective? Because I know that the power of collective is very much vital. And then the third part could be a suggestion too. I mean,
sorry, Jen, please, can you be brief with your question, please?
Yes, please. I'm rounding up. That's the last one. So the last one is a suggestion. So my suggestion now is, while we are looking at, I mean, I've seen where the different states, they have their laws. When it comes to the budgeting part of it, there is education, but then it's not inclusive. Can we go through lobbying, where we lobby these MDAs to be, because I've come to understand that when there are budgets, people tend to recycle budgets. They bring those items back to pay. Either they change the names, they don't really sit down to formulate new projects or items. Can we lobby these MDAs, train them to get them, know when the budgeting, the time circular for bringing in items and projects, and pass through these MDAs to infuse some of these components into the system? By the time they find it that, oh, it's a win-win, it's a good concept, it's something that will amplify their respective positions, that they're doing something. I think that way it will make its way into the budget, because I think through the budget a whole lot would have been influenced. It's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that, for those questions. We'll react to it. We'll take 2 more, then we'll react to them. I think I saw Madam Yakub Biokisu, your hands are raised. Please go ahead.
Hello? Hello? Can you all hear me?
Yes, please
Okay.
go ahead. You have your 2 minutes now, please. Thank you.
Okay. Good
Sorry.
morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be part of this PEA dissemination meeting, and I think I've learned a lot. And since I only have 2 minutes, I'll just go straight to the point. What strikes me most was the analysis per state. Even though I can see that some states have domesticated the disability law, but then what's the level of implementation? Because that is where the issues are. And for us, since we are still having educational challenges there, that means we need to do a lot in terms of advocacy, advocating to relevant stakeholders in terms of ensuring, like the other speaker had said earlier, the budgeting process, is it inclusive? We need to do analysis of even the national budget by the UNCRPD to ensure that we have inclusion in the budget and be able to say by so percent the national budget is being inclusive and so on, especially in the education sector, since we are looking at education. But then after the PEA, then so what? The next steps needs to be also very important in order to ensure that this PEA is not just a document that we have done and then we keep as something that will shelf, but we need to do something to react and also make sure we take steps and actions to ensure that the message is being sent to the right people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Blekisu. I can see the hands of President BC. Madam President, please unmute. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, all. I actually want to appreciate you for this event. Now, when I heard education, I was so happy because I knew that in our cluster, that is Albinism Association, we have an issue concerning our site. So that is why we are actually people with disability, because we have this virtual impairment. So when you were reading the report, I was expecting to hear what should be done for these people, most especially children in the classroom. Even if they are sitting in the front row, they cannot see the blackboard. I'm not sure if the people you interviewed or you gave questionnaire to were able to explain. The teachers are very unfriendly to them because they start wondering, you are still sitting in front, why can't you see? So maybe there's something that should be done. For example, asking books supplied to these children to have bold letters, that is to increase their funds. And even those in the secondary school as well, or those writing exams. If something can be done concerning that, we really appreciate it, please.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you.
And to answer you directly, I want to read out another question that is similar to what you've just mentioned. That's by Dizat Umar. The major concern in inclusive education is not only the visible disabilities, but rather the non-visible ones, e.g. learning disabilities, autism, and even the gifted. Does this research take? Yes, and I think we mentioned that severally. And whilst we were bouncing the elements against the pillars, which was clearly mentioned, that majority of the education enablers, which we believe the teachers as well. It's a whole lot of report that after this meeting we like and we can all read, and we see clearly how these things affect us all. So thank you very much, Ma, for that contribution. I'd like to call on Mr. Job Agbo for your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And thank you, my brother, for the job well done. He presented a very concise and well summarized. Hello?
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, he did a very good job. Now, I'm trying to respond to my sister from Akwa Ibom State. You see, I want to let you know that he there where they should know where pinches him or her. How we got our own in River State domesticated to the extent that the governor had to, assent to it, is that we were able to pick out consensus individuals. And those consensus were able to form a group which was chaired by me at the drafting committee level. Then we got our bill, well drafted. We sponsor ourselves, nobody gave us money. I was basically spending money for myself, the chairman was spending money for himself, because we know the importance of listening to our people. It was after we've gone far that a particular NGO decided to come and see our effort and they contributed. I remember I've taken this very particular advocacy to Akwa Ibom State on the need for Akwa Ibom to have their disability right law domesticated. I went through the Deputy Speaker of Akwa Ibom State, Honorable Felicia Bassi, but incidentally her tenure have expired. I think you guys should also kick off from there and continue the fight from there. But if you are expecting anybody to come and gather you guys together and see how you can sponsor people, you must first of all be in the front trying to get this done. Then you can then see assistance. I think also I want to use this opportunity also to tell our national chairman of John Appy for the work well done.
President,
also
you meant.
our president, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I get this right. Sorry, sir. So it should be able to, in our respective zones, the zonal coordinators should wake up to their responsibilities towards the states and try to say I can ginger and inspire the spirit of trying to bring out this, disability right law in their respective states. Because if you look at it critically, a lot of our zonal coordinators are just lying there doing nothing, and we cannot advocate. So, Mr. President, please, I would like you to look into that.
Thank you very much. Could you please mute? Secretariat, can you kindly help me?
I think I've ended my question there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Job. Secretariat, please help. Doctor. Okay, thank you very much. We'll have one last one. Sorry, we can't. I'll call on President. No, okay, sorry. I don't know who this. Omotola. Kindly unmute. You have your hands raised. Omotola. Okay, so in the absence of Omotola, I'll call on Stephen Wires. Stephen Wires, kindly unmute. And have for 2 minutes. Okay, so thank you. I think he's having a very okay, thank you. I think your network is a bit erratic.
Mr. Peter also is online, please.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead, Mr. Stephen.
All right. Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Job well done for JNP. My own is just a recommendation. I feel okay. It's, in your report, that there are states that have actually demonstrated these laws. So my concern is, how is the national
Mr. Stephen, you are muted. Would you like to unmute? Mr. Stephen, you are muted. Would you like to unmute?
Hello, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So my point is just to see how the national can come up with programs. First of all, to identify those states that have demonstrated those laws in their various states, show them kind of appreciation to encourage other states that have not yet done that, and come up with, like in Kaduna State, yes, the Kaduna State government have signed the disability law. This is about going to 3 years, and the transition year was reduced to 5 years. It means we have just less than 2 years to see. And
Okay, Mr. Mr. Stephen, I think your network is a bit erratic. I would like to call on the last person now so that we can move on. Mr. Obonamu, kindly unmute for your 2 minutes.
I want to start by saying good morning to all participants in this forum. Let me use this opportunity to thank the President and the Secretariat for doing a wonderful job of having this meeting today. We have a lot of challenges surrounding what we are doing. Hello? Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. You
can speak.
Thank
yes,
you.
we actually have a lot of in River State, for instance. Before I delve into my question, we have our law since 2011, and we've been running around until the expiration of the last administration. We talked to a lot of prominent people, tried to canvass, lobby, what have you, in order to make the implementation possible. The law is there. But when it is not, or it has not been implemented, it's absolutely useless. It's as good as not even having it. Now, my question, how, a little bit away from the public sector, how can we encourage the private sector to buy into our programs? Some of our programs, to be very candid with you, should be private sector driven, because this is one of the major problems we have. Government can't do everything for us. It's been a problem. In terms of having an inclusive education, how can we help them to buy into the program? Thank you.
Thank you very much, so much for that. And just to reflect and respond to your question. Of course, we understand very clearly that as persons with disabilities, we have to be ready, we have to be skilled. The private sector is very profit driven, and they have a penchant and a high for quality, because they are very deliberate about their profit margin, their break even. And so that's why it's really important for us to deeper into the context of our education rights. Because if you deny us of those rights, then we are not prepared. You are deliberately denying us of participating in the context of decision making. And for private sectors as well, broadly, like we all know, they are profit driven. And for them to buy into that, we have to create and amplify the values we are bringing into their context. And for us to bring such values, we have to be ready. And being ready means we have to have the required skills and the capacities to engage in those sectors, to engage with them and amplify our issues, so that they are rightly appropriated, and of course their CSR can begin to respond to our need as a people. So I don't know if that answers your question broadly. Just to, if we have any other than that, but in the report itself, you will see some of the recommendation that speaks to the private sector, and thank you very much for that. We have 2 more hands raised. I would like to call on Mr. Akibun Ahmed. And that will be the last one for today. Thank you.
No, please, my hand has been up since.
Oh, yeah. Madam, I called you earlier.
Oh, sorry. I was called by CBM, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, Mr. Akibu, 1 minute. Let Madam Omotola respond.
Okay, thank you, sir.
2 minutes,
yes.
Madam. Thank you.
Oh, yes. My question is on this IEP. These schools that we have, especially the public schools, are we sure that they have the amenities to meet this IEP, the individualized educational plan? Because visiting some of the schools, I just see them as glorified daycare centers. They don't have the assistive devices for learning. Then I think there is need for us to engage with the education ministry and then see a way by which the curriculum can be changed to suit the capability of the children. Okay, I'll give you an example. Somebody that has Down syndrome, a child with Down syndrome, we cannot compare a child with Down syndrome in the same class with a child with physical disabilities. Their way of assimilation differs. They are slow learners. and then the other one can flow with whatever is being taught in the classroom. So I think there's need for us to really sit down with this ministry, education ministry, and have engagement with them and see how they can restructure their curriculum to meet the capabilities of some of these our children. And lastly, I read something, I listened to you when you were delivering, you were making your presentation on grants given to some schools for inclusion purposes. You know, there are some schools, they have the mainstream combined with the inclusive schools. But are you sure that this money, the grants given to them, are spent on our children? Because most of the schools, they are just there, not imparting anything on the children. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Just very short response to number one question. Individualized education plan, like we highlighted during the presentation, you can't appropriate what you don't understand. It's as simple as how it's been said. And if from your observations, you've seen that, or you've observed that some of these schools are not doing what is expected in the context of enabling our rights, then it's broadly understood that they do not understand it. If they don't understand disability needs, if they do not understand the diversities within the movements, if they do not understand what it entails, then of course, whatever individualized plan they have will definitely not respond to the needs of persons with disabilities, especially when you talk about the disadvantaged groups within us. And that's to that. In terms of the grants, so broadly, it's to encourage, you know, the same way we make arguments around tax cuts and all that for private sectors that are responsive to persons with disabilities. It's the same context that we're bringing forward, is to encourage. And when and that's the place of UNCRPD, to track some of these disbursements. So when you are giving as a private sector actor that is privy to receiving any sort of grants to enable the rights of persons with disabilities, and we are aware of such grants, then we can track it to know and investigate what such grants have been used for. And that's why we encourage most of the times a lot of these enablers within the ecosystem to be very, very forward in amplifying some of their contributions and actions to support disability agenda, inclusion agenda in the country. So there has to be a tracking system that demands accountability from whoever is enjoying from the rights that they are expected to enable. So just to respond to your questions, like Ben said. So this is the last one. I will call on Akibu. Sorry for the rest of us. Unfortunately, we have to close now.
I want to raising my hand. I've been raising my
Sorry, Mr. Akibu. If you can hear me, we can barely hear you.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
First of all, commend Joint Association of Persons with Disabilities for this wonderful initiative. Right now, the issue is what people are saying, that the advocacy should include radio program and all other things, method of communication that can reach to the common man. There is need for massive mobilization. Actually, in my state, we don't have any plan on inclusive education, even though there is a move.
Which state, sir?
Bauchi State.
Thank you.
We don't have any law that talks about inclusive education. But right now, as part of our collaboration after advocacy with the newest president and the higher institution, there is a plan for us to develop inclusive education policy. Part of the president who is currently in this meeting. Actually, I want to commend the guy for this wonderful initiative. The issue of person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On this note, I would like to invite Mr. President wants more to respond on the final notes to issues around domestications of law across the states and how we can hold some of our duty bearers to account in terms of some of the commitments they've made to advance the rights of persons with disabilities. Mr. President, sir.
Good morning once again.
Morning, sir.
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation you give today. Well, really, many of the states are here to domesticate the disability law. As earlier mentioned by some of our colleagues here, some state has already signed the law, but after signing the law is just be keeping under the table. Nothing is going on to see maybe they start implementing or maybe start establishing an organization or commission, anything related to this issue. We know this one and a lot of things is there. As Dr. Joy has already mentioned, some of the states, it is directly the work of persons with disability by themselves. Before you see even the governor maybe say, okay, now they will sign the bill into law. But unfortunately, if you look at the states who signed the law, honestly, majority of them, they only signed it, but you don't see any commission or any agency who is protecting the law signing by the state governor. Presently, we are planning or we are still communicating with some of the states that we see the law have already been signing to see how they will do their advocacy from the relevant stakeholders and see how it can be possible the law sign now come to implementation, either to have a commission or any agency. So this is the situation presently we are, and maybe where our door is still open for any advice from our stakeholders here to see how possible we will move this thing forward. There is many states that even the law are yet to be signed. So we have a lot of things I know a lot of work in this issue. So honestly, our door is open for any technical advice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very brilliant contribution and responding to some of the questions. On this note, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank our international bodies and partners and friends, regional bodies, partners and friends, sub-regional bodies, partners and friends that have joined us today, and of course our national bodies, partners and friends, and of course all the stakeholders within UNCRPD for a fantastic representation. We are very proud of ourselves. We are very humbled as well. On concluded notes, we have the tool. It's a tool, like as it's been mentioned by Mr. Shoaib of the African Disability Forum, is a tool for advocacy. Once we have it, it's something that we need to begin to engage with, understand it, then of course broadly activate the actions within the report. We expect that it's something that we use to engage majority of the stakeholders across the states and across the 774 local governments and at all levels in that matter. So we'd like to end by saying education is not preparation for life, but education is life itself. We need to understand this as a people, and we need to make the ecosystem and actors within the ecosystem understand this, to understand these dynamics as well. So thank you very much. We look forward to having you next time when we have conversations of this sort. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, our director.
Finished. My sister from Akwa Ibom State, I will be grateful to have your contact. Okay?